Well, moving on, Mother Teresa once said, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone to waters to create many ripples. Well, our next guest will definitely do the same. Professor Neera Mishra, ma'am, the founder chairperson of Draupadi Dream Trust, which was established in 2003 to create a better understanding and appreciation of ancient heritage legacies, is one of the most prominent examples of the strength that women possess. Endowed with incomparable intellect and zeal to uplift women, she is an independent research student focused on ancient civilization, cultural heritage, especially of the Vedic and Mahabharat period history and culture. And in its socio-cultural impact, she is definitely arranging and achieving heights. She will be sharing her thoughts on one of the strongest women to have ever existed in India, Draupadi. We welcome you to the program, ma'am. Thank you for accepting our invitation and thank you for coming first to the event. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this kind introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
hear
We can
me?
hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. Many congratulations to all the organizers for this wonderful initiative on celebrating womanhood. But I would like to also qualify this by saying that in India, women have always been revered and celebrated day in and day out. We begin our day with Ma, and throughout the day, we either calling our dadi or nani or bua or maybe our didi and sisters to help us out. Uh, the International Women's Day, on the serious note, is actually a Western concept, and India evolving and growing and being in tune with the international community celebrates this day as a mark of our solidarity with the international women. And today I'm very happy that Kamala Harris has finally managed to be the vice president. Why I'm saying this? Because in 2000, as a governing body member of the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce Ladies Wing, we did a program on International Women's Day on 8th March, and we had invited all the ambassadors. And the American ambassador's wife, I think Blackwood was the ambassador at that time, plus she was a very renowned professor in her own field, and she said, no matter how progressive America becomes economically, in terms of gender equality, there's always a glass ceiling when it comes to promotions of women. So kudos for America for following in the footsteps of Bharatiya Sanskriti and Sabhita. And with that note, I come down to introducing to you somebody who's, I just want to show you a few slides. Okay. So what you see on the screen is an image that is now a pride possession of the National Museum at Delhi under the Ministry of Culture. It shows three important aspects that you will notice here when
Yes.
I'm talking of Draupadi. This has a Chandra on one of the sides. So she is the daughter of Chandra Vanshi Raja Drupad. There is a third eye on her forehead, where I will now tell you as I go along that she is the avatar of Parvati and actually the consort of Shiva in her previous life. And third thing that you will notice is a beautiful hairstyle. And this hairstyle and this knowledge that Draupadi had as a hairdresser, she uses this to overcome her adversity with dignity by being a queen. She becomes the hairdresser to a queen of Biratnagar. Before I tell you about who is Draupadi, also, I want to tell you, give you quotes of two important persons who have said something about Draupadi. And these persons are our Prime Minister of India. In 2013, when my trust was celebrating 10 years, we wrote to him about, because Gujarat is very intrinsically related to Draupadi. There is a festival in Tarnetar where Draupadi and Arjuna are celebrated. And he wrote this letter to us. It says, Draupadi is a symbol of dignity and self-respect, and she exemplifies the power of faith, that her great faith in Krishna and in God, in spirituality. The second person I would like to quote is late socialist politician, very popular politician from Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia. He had made this statement: if I have to choose between Sita and Draupadi, I would always choose Draupadi as the ideal woman. So that is the status that Draupadi has enjoyed as the ideal woman. And her, just I'm going to show you just a few slides, because I think for 99.9% of the people who are going to be hearing this program, this is all going to be absolutely new knowledge. There is, I'm quoting whatever I'm saying from our scripture, from our text, from our ancient texts. Not only Mahabharat, but we have a book, in ancient times, there was a system of creating a book in honor of the place. So there is a book called Kampilya Mahatma, which comprises of Mahabharat quotations from Padma Puran, from Skanda Puran, from Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, etc. So it's a compilation which tells about the importance of Kampilya, the place. And Draupadi was born in the land of Panchala, in the capital city of Panchala called Kampilya. And why we say she was Parvati? Because when she was born, uh, after that, when she gets married as a Swayamvar, she is revealed that who she is. And I'm going to tell you that quote from that book. When Shiva was was involved in the creation of Ganga, the path for Ganga, Parvati is very annoyed and he curses her, I'm sending Ganga to Dharti, now you also go to Dharti. And Parvati is very, very disturbed. And she says, no, Swami, I will always stay with you. And then he tells her, I'm sorry, I've already cursed you, but now I'll give you a boon. I will meet you in another life. You will be going and staying in a secret place in Kampilya, and the rishis there will perform a yajna during the time of King Drupada, and you will be born after a yajna in that auspicious sacred land of Panchala. So Draupadi is considered in our text as the avatar of Parvati. I am also going to clear in very brief some 5-6 misperceptions as I tell her about a story. We all know Draupadi is also called Panchali because she was the princess of the land of Panchal. Panchal was it was the first confederation of 5 people coming together, tribes, to make the land called Panchala. Historical first confederation of the world, political confederation. So when she was, there is a story to her father, Drupada. He had been defeated by his class friend Dronacharya, and he wanted to do a yajna to beget a Yodha in order to defeat Dronacharya and regain half his kingdom. So he goes to a priest and says, I want you to do a yajna for a Yodha son. And the priest says, they actually, he has to go through 1 year of penance. So while the queen is pregnant, he goes through the penance. And when they do the yagna, then twins are born. So first her brother Dushtudem and then she. But because he had gone with the motive and all the prayers were focused on getting a Yodha child, both the children, the brother and the sister, are become Yodhas. So Draupadi is also called Yajyasenini. That means a Yodha born out of the Yaj. Also called Agniputri. And so because she represents the purity of gold, that gold is after burning in fire, it becomes pure. So there is a great misperception about her birth, that she came emerged out of that. It is a symbolic way of telling us that she was the result of a great penance and fire sacrifice which performed by her father. Second is misperception about Draupadi. We are talking of women and gender equality. This Swayamvar represents a very significant aspect of our ancient civilization, cultural thought and philosophy on gender equality. A woman had the right to choose her husband. How could she have the right to choose her husband unless she was educated, unless she had the knowledge who should be her husband, what type of person she wants? That means her emotional and intellectual capabilities have to be developed. And here I would like to quote from the Vedas, from the Rig Veda, from Manusmriti, and even from Atharvaved, where it is very clearly said, if you want to empower your child, girl child, educate her. Give her knowledge of Vedas. Vedas means basically scientific knowledge. So give her that knowledge and let her be the charioteer of her own life. So these are the so the Swayamvar ceremony represents the empowered woman. Sita, of course, I have nothing against Sita. Sita, I find equally a liberated woman. But when you compare Draupadi's life to her, you will find the challenges that Draupadi faced. There is one big misperception about Draupadi when at the Swayamvar. The misperception is that she insulted Karna by refusing him to take part in the Swayamvar ceremony. Now tell me, if a woman has the right to choose her husband, does she not have a right to reject a person? Why she is blamed for that? I still don't understand the logic of men and women, and even some of our seers who trying to propagate wrong things, that she insulted Karna. Swayamvar by itself definition means she has the right to refuse all except and except one. So the Swayamvar ceremony is very significant because this is not only the ceremony that makes such bring out a character to choose her personality, but here also she is, when she is asked to take the 5 husbands. I go back to the story. She is also perplexed and she goes through quite a hell trying to say, what happened to? Why should I take 5 husbands? I have chosen Arjun. Sri Krishna reminds her of her previous life and tells her that you were the wife of, you are Parvati, you were the wife of Shiva, and you had been told that Shiva had told, I will meet you in different forms. And so the 5 husbands, they represent different forms. In our area in Pancha, we still have shivlings with 4 heads and the center being Yudhishthir. So now we come to the next very important episode of her life that is very much misperceived, misrepresented. And this is the one? This is the one that relates to her, the popular film, television, Aam Janta ka concept, that she was disrobed. She was never disrobed. She was dragged out of her room and only her dupatta was touched. We have done authentic research in the book, gone through each and aspect of the book with eminent scholars of Sanskrit. So Draupadi was never disrobed. Yes, she was insulted and she was dragged into the court, and that's where you see her strength as a yodha, because here she's faced with she raises 3 important questions to the king. So the first woman that we know in recorded history who had the guts, the grit to stand up in the court and challenge the king for the disrespect to a woman. And she asked the king, what right does the husband have on me? I am not his property. That's the first time we come to know that a woman in Indian philosophy is not a property. She's a ardhangini. She is an equal partner. Here, the Nar-Narayanization that men and women are equal partners in the journey of life. Here there's a very important question she raises, and this question is I said that I'm not a piece of property. Second legal question: since he lost himself in the dice game, what right does he have over to lose to upon me? But court is silence. The court does not raise a voice. Bhish Pitama's head is down. The king does not know. King is blind to everything. And who comes to her help? It is Gandhari who comes to her help. See, the women in Mahabharata are powerful women. She comes to her help, saying, now you come and touch my dupatta. Come and touch me. See, another thing they show the pallu being touched. In olden days, sari was never used to have a long skirt and a choli and a dupatta. So there was no sari, and they show this for films, glamorizing and sensationalizing. So Draupadi uses what? What is her? She becomes a Yodha, and what is her power now? You see, she was very fond of her hair. She had lovely hair, and she opens her hair and she says, I'll never tie my hair till justice is done to me. And of course, she calls for Krishna at that time, and Krishna comes to her help. And that's the way that Prime Minister has written to us, that she represents the power of faith, that if you're truth, if you're there, and if you are wanting to protect yourself and your dignity, I'm there with you. God is there with you. So, very important lesson. And she uses her hair as her tool. So, she as a pawn. You see, she is used as a pawn. She fights for justice. And how will she fight for justice? Fights for justice. She tells Krishna, I want justice. One woman's disrespect leads to the whole country standing up and taking sides and going into a war, which termed as the Kurukshetra Dharma Yudh. And that Kurukshetra Dharma, I was going through this whole, history of the past. Ved Vyasa says, remarks that I was so disturbed by the cries of Draupadi in the Sabha that I must document this narrative of this Dwapar era. So, then another important thing we need to know about Draupadi, how she represents women. After they lose the dice game, she is, the Pandavas are banished for 12 years. And her father, Draupadi's father, comes to take her. And she says, no, I will not go home. I will not go to Kampilya. I am there through Ardhangini. I will be side by side with them in happiness and in sadness. So she stands up as a woman of gender equality. She does not say, she was the daughter of a big king. She could have just gone there. So no, she represents the gender equality. Then, here during the Agyatwas, as I was saying, she also represents the first entrepreneur. Why? As I said, being a queen, she stoops to become the self-empowered and work as a hairdresser. You see, when they were in Agyatwas, the Pandavas had to take on different jobs. So Bhim was a rasoi, Arjun became a sir. Likewise, each of them had taken some jobs. She says, I'm not going to sit, crib, cry, and blame others. I'm also going to work. And so she takes up the job. So I consider her as the first empowered woman, the first entrepreneur who believes in self-respect and overcoming poverty with great adversity with great dignity. Again, her relationship with Krishna was so important, which is very important also in today's context. You see, today when we are going out and working with men, we become friendly with men. We are married, unmarried, we may be mothers, we may be daughters in whatever capacity. But there is stigma attached to a man and woman becoming friends. The Krishna and Draupadi represents the true platonic friendship of intellectual partners. So this, her friendship with Krishna represents two important things. Number one, her intellectual caliber was so high that the Lord Krishna himself called her the Sakha. He doesn't call her Sakhi, he calls her Sakha. That gender equality, Sakha is a neutral term. Second part is this, that two individuals, whether they are male Sakhas and equal partners and equal friends in life, irrespective of which gender they belong. I'm especially stating this sentence because so many people have narrated their personal lives. When I came to Delhi in 1994, I was chosen by SIDBI to be an entrepreneur. I started my career as an entrepreneur. And I, by grace of God, through whatever little knowledge God has given me through my educational background, I've done business administration. I was a selected entrepreneur by SIDBI and trained by SIDBI, the Small Industries Development Board. I used to face peculiar, words in society. How is she successful? Why is she so friendly with X, Y, Z? I was amazed. I said, why, as an individual, I can be friendly with anybody, and as an individual, I'm succeeding because of my own caliber, because of my own knowledge. So, challenges that modern women have always faced, and I will also come back to that why this has happened, but I just want to complete in brief the story of Draupadi. I don't know how many of you know that there is this festival called the Akshaya Tritiya. It is again Draupadi's one life incident in her life where again the power of faith that a person has. Duryodhan sends these rishis for her to their place in the jungles for food. She has no food and she cries for Krishna. Krishna comes and takes one small grain of rice from a pot, and those people, they get satiated and they don't even feel hungry and they don't come back to have their food. And this day is celebrated as Akshaya Tritiya. Now, this is the most important of Draupadi's life, where you will see how empowered and educated she was. Satyabhama asks her one question: how do you manage 5 husbands? And there is a beautiful narration shows how she is explaining. She knows the names of all the workers in the palace. She knows the requirements and needs of everybody who's under her. Remember, there were many other queens of the Pandavas, because in those days the kings could have more queens. And of course, I, as a modern woman, say, if the kings could have more queens, why couldn't a woman have more wives? I mean, more husbands. That's gender equality. Coming back to this, she explains financial management, she explains house management, she explains interpersonal skills, she explains communication skills. Everything she lays down and explains to her how she manages different personalities of the 5 husbands, how she manages her life. You see, one thing you have to understand: husbands, it was a free for all. There is a rule in ancient Indian tradition that if you have more than one husband, which is a tradition still in many places, each is assigned a 1 year only. So each 1 year she is with one husband, and then she is here with the other husband, 1 year each. It's not that she can have all the husbands. So she knows whose child it is, number one, and she is in all heart and mind and soul with that person. And so this dialogue brought Draupadi's multifaceted personality, her knowledge as a educated and empowered woman to handle and take on the responsibilities of life, and she creates an identity for herself. We remember Draupadi even after 5,000 years. Why? Because there was something outstanding about her personality. And it's very sad that in North India, where she was born in Kampilya, in Indraprastha, which is Delhi from where I'm speaking, where she became the first queen of Indraprastha, there is no memorial to Draupadi. Whereas in Indonesia, Bali, there is a temple to her. In Chennai, there are multiple temples to her, which I have visited. I'll just give you a glimpse of some of them. absolute tip of the Indian country. There is an ocean called Union Islands, where the people had converted to Syrian Christians, yet they pray to Draupadi Amman. So Draupadi Amman temples are there in South India, many places. There's a Dharmaraja temple in Bangalore where every year for 15 days they celebrate Draupadi Amman. Amman means Devi. We don't even call her Devi in North India. So it is high time from this day onwards, I would personally request you to address Draupadi as Devi Draupadi, because she had the Devatya in her. And that is why we call her Devi. She is as we said, she is a woman who sort of stands for justice. She stands for equality. She stands for uh, uh, gender parity. She stands for the dignity of a woman and respect, self-respect. So she uses her armor is not weapons. Her armor is her intellectual strength, her emotional strength, and her belief in truth, in protecting dharma. So what was the dharma? Dharma was respect women, and that dharma was shattered on particular day, and that is why she challenges the people. She raises her voice for regaining the respect, and she says, it is not for me. Even if it can happen to a woman who is the queen of this kul badhu ke saath, if something can happen, it can happen to armed woman. So I have to take up the fight against this thing. So Draupadi, just the way today we are taking up the, see, you have actually removed a lot of the films. Just Draupadi dilemma of modern women is the same as the Draupadi dilemma of the original Draupadi. I was telling you about the mandir. Important aspect I want to tell you, since we are talking of Draupadi and we are talking about Devi, there is the biggest misperception that she laughed at Duryodhan and she said, Andhe ka beta andha. She neither laughed at Duryodhan nor she said, Andhe ka beta andha. It's not in the Mahabharat text anywhere. So why is this known? Why is it become so popular? First is blame it on the woman. If anything goes wrong, just blame any woman. See, Draupadi was the daughter of a very powerful king. The day she married the 5 Pandavas, she became a pillar of strength for the Pandavas. So she added double power to the strength of the Pandavas. That made Duryodhan very jealous. That made Dhritarashtra very insecure. And he said, now my sons will lose all the kingdom. So they decided to divide the kingdom. These are the temples I'm talking about. I visited on Draupadi Amma. They divided the kingdom and Indraprastha was created. Now, these 2 incidents about Draupadi laughed and said, Andhe ka beta andha, are supposed to have been said when the Rajasuya Yagya of Yudhishthir was happening at Indraprastha, and these Kuru brothers were in it. Now, tell me one thing, if the king is getting coronated, then the mother queen, that is Draupadi, will she be taking guests around? And especially her jait around? That is not a tradition. The officers of the court, it will be the dasis and the dasas, etc., who will take them around. She'll be too busy making preparations for the 100 kings that came for this ceremony. So, first point is, in the Mahabharata, it is retained that she was present at the point where Duryodhan fell. Number 2, Andhe beta andha. What happened is, when Bhim came to know Duryodhan had fallen in the pool of water, he says, Hey Dhritarashtra Putra. It was Bhim who had sarcastically said, Hey Dhritarashtra Putra, but Duryodhan, because of his jealousy, his anger, his absolute, desire to get Indraprastha out of them, goes back to Hastinapur and creates a story around Draupadi and tells his father all these things. So it is Duryodhan's word against facts of the whole story. So basically, I wanted to take you through this small story of Draupadi to make you understand why she's the ideal woman, because she stooped when there was need. That is, she stoops and goes in the jungles. She bows to the respect of the principles of life of a wife, that I have to be with my husband through thick and thin. And at the same time, she does not bow when injustice is done to her. So she raises a voice when injustice is done, and raises a voice for all women to come forever. Today, when we see so many wrong things happening, the whole reason is that 1,000 years we have been deprived of our knowledge of our own text, of our own itihas. Number two, the invasions were so brutal, so dangerous, that they would come and take away a woman. So for almost 1,000 years, all our women had to be kept in parda, they had to be kept inside doors. And that is why there was a disconnect on proper education and proper liberation of women. But remember, we never had sati, we never had a disrespect for widow. If we had so much disrespect for widow, would Kunti be surviving and taking care of 5 husbands? Kunti was a widow. When King Dashrath died, all the 3 wives, they were there. They did not commit sati. So widowhood was not a disrespect. Widowhood was not treated. Women who were widows were never treated with disrespect. And nobody committed sati. The whole concept of sati came after the invasions came, because the woman knew that the moment my husband is killed, I will become the property of the invaders. And so I have to choose. Either I become their property or die. So she chose to die. And because of her truth, her belief in her faith, it is called sati. Satya. Satya ke liye apna jaan dena. So that's Sati and Johar. You are familiar with Sati and Johar. So neither we were uneducated, neither we were, cowed and, disrespect. Yeah, I'm going to finish now. That's why I was
actually,
asking.
that is what
I wanted to know the time. Nobody told me how many minutes. Okay. So women of ancient India, Draupadi represents, these are all the quotations from the Vedas, which I will not go through now. But women of ancient India are very truly represented by Draupadi and Sita. And Draupadi is the ideal woman. And we don't need to learn from the West, who started in 1924 to give the first voting right to women. We always had a voting right. We were by priests, women were Vidushis who wrote Vedas, women were rulers, women were musicians, everything. So I thank all of you. I congratulate all of you. Learn to respect your own icons, learn to respect your own women heroes, and then you will be truly empowered. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm sorry I've overstepped my time. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for helping us reconnect with our glorious history and with an enigmatic woman like Draupadi. The sheer detail and depth of your delivery must have filled our viewer with a renewed vigor to learn and explore even more, just like it has to me. Thank you so much, ma'am.